Welcome to Funny Minds. I'm your host, Lynn B.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me here.
And Edward. And we're talking with Melissa Leon. And good morning. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, and your voice sounds a lot better.
Yesterday was rough, but I am getting through it, and it's all uphill. We're good.
I know it's allergy season and it's crazy, and a lot of people have been feeling, not that well.
My husband says it's because I talk too much, so whatever.
Okay.
Your husband's going to say that anyway.
It's probably true, though. I mean, what you host a podcast, you speak for a living, like it's just the way it is.
My kids, when I had laryngitis, they would be like, "Oh, gee, too bad, Mom," and then they'd go like this, and they'd clap, and they'd walk away, little monsters.
Yes, exactly. My 8-year-old thinks it's very amusing that I can't yell across the room right now.
Well, Melissa, you have a lot of titles to your name. You're the owner of 2 Cents Consulting. You're an author. You're a financial wizard, and you've developed this self-proclaimed efficiency bitch, which
Yes,
is an acronym for which you're going to tell us all about. So let's find out a little bit about you. What are you doing with your consulting business?
Yeah, thanks for asking. My consulting business is called 2 Cents Consulting, and that's SENSE, so like making sense. And we really specialize in helping very small businesses make sense of their financial statements. So many small business owners really only use their balance sheet and their P&L to hand over to their tax preparer every year. And what we learned through COVID is that if you don't have those documents prepared and understand them, you can really miss out on a lot of things. And many of them did during the PPP loans and the EIDL, and even now the employee retention credit. So we set out on a mission to really help improve financial literacy for small business owners. And that means bookkeeping, but we really shine in the fractional CFO space. I have a partner, her name is Leanne. So we're completely women-owned and operated. I like to think we're both pretty charismatic, so we have a little bit of a competitive edge in the accounting field. We're typically known for lack of charisma. We exude it. So it's been a really fun journey for us.
I know I was the CFO of a manufacturing company, so I understand a lot of what you're talking about. And yeah, like people would say, like when they would meet me, after they would meet me, they'd say, "You're not like any other accounting person I've ever met before," because I joke, I laugh, and people are so stodgy and they're so stoic, and I'm like, well, it depends on the person. But you're right, PPP, oh my God, what a nightmare. That was a nightmare for so many people, unfortunately. So it's great that you had the ability and someone else to go out there and help a lot of people, because the banks were not helping anybody. They were hoping.
It's really what got us started. I was like doing bookkeeping on the side of my corporate job for friends and family. And then when COVID started, Leanne was laid off of her position because COVID destroyed everything. And we just thought, we have a lot of talent from a corporate level that we can help these small business owners. So we started doing it for free just because we could and people needed it. And that's what you do in an emergency. And it triggered and sparked something, and it's been very successful, and it's awesome. When you're in the right place doing the right thing, like that's this for us.
You were in the right place at the right time. Right.
You got it.
Exactly. That's wonderful. So you're an author and of how many books?
This is my very first book. There will be more.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And the name of your book is?
Efficiency B.I.T.C.H, how ambitious women can have it all without doing it all.
And you want to have your cake and eat it too. I thought that was hysterical.
I do. I want it. And you know what? You can. You just have to know how to adjust the recipe. I'm a mom. I have 3 kids that are small. They're 8, 10, and 12. Like having a corporate job, building a business, writing a book, you can do everything. You can have everything. You just can't do everything. And so that's kind of what Efficiency B.I.T.C.H is all about.
All at one time, right? Woman empowerment. Yes. I love it.
It's been
I
really
wasn't.
well received in this era. I'll tell you that I have my very first book signing tomorrow at Barnes and Noble. I have
Oh,
another one
that's
in April.
wonderful.
Yeah,
That's
it's been really
wonderful.
cool. It's been a lot of
I wrote a
love
book
given to me.
last year, but I haven't had time. I started the podcast, so I haven't really had time to push it. But that's my next project, on YouTube and TikTok and the whole 9 yards is, pushing the book, pushing the podcast, doing the affiliates, doing the sponsorships, so yeah, I might have
Self-promotion is a really
retired,
hard
but
thing.
I didn't retire. So yeah,
Yeah.
I understand, women do want to have it all.
Mhm.
You're right. You're right. That's how we're just triggered that way. Well, most of us are.
It's funny too, and I don't ever want any of my message to be considered a man hater. And I think feminism often is assumed to be man hating, and that's the opposite of my message.
Right.
We just want what men have had for decades. That's all. It's not that we want to shame or displace or live without them. For me, my grandfather had a career and he had 3 kids, and my dad did too, and I want that, right? I mean, we just want what men have always had. So we're getting there. There's been so much progress. Still have a long ways to go. I think a lot in our own psyche. I think a lot of women need to let go of some of the
Right.
assumptions of what the generational knowledge has given us. But it is not my duty, whether anyone likes it or not, to cook and clean. This is not my role. People always say mom duties or wife duties. I don't know what the hell that means. My husband and I share. We share
I like
all of
that.
that stuff.
I like that a lot. You're right.
I'm sitting here going, you found the perfect guest. The perfect everything you're talking about, I'm just sitting here going, yep, that's her. That's her. But it is completely, understandable, and that you mentioned, how people view feminism as a man-hating situation, which obviously it's really not. And the way you describe it is you just want what men have had for so long. It makes so much sense, and I think you're starting to see a lot more. People are becoming more focused on it, more aware,
Right.
wrapping their heads around it. It makes sense. Obviously it has for so long. It's just it's becoming, every day, which is great.
But
Yeah,
it's
tough. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. It's not that hard for a man to pick up the dishes, clean them off a little bit, put them in the dishwasher, and do a load of wash, or straighten up. It's not that you're not a man if you do that. And I think a lot of men
Yeah.
have that macho image of I'm the man of the house. I'm the breadwinner.
Well, I mean, decades ago, it was so hard to maintain a house because we didn't have refrigerators or vacuums. I mean, in the 1920s and 1930s, that was a thing. It was a full-time job to take care of a home. Your kids didn't go to school all day, every day. Your kids were home because public education was not mandatory back then. And things have changed a lot. Just the invention of a refrigerator changed the way that we do things. And that was not even 100 years ago. So you really think about the way my grandmother grew up versus the way my mom grew up versus the way I am or my children are. It's very, very difficult. And I do have a lot of empathy for a lot of the targets that have been placed on the backs of straight white men in particular. These days, they do seem to be public enemy number one. And I think that's really unfair. You had nothing to do with what your grandfather or your great grandfather did. But again, we also want what your great grandfather and your father and you have all had afforded to you through generations. So hopefully the lens can shift a bit from hating to accepting and understanding. That's at a macro level, probably not possible because humans in general just don't, as a general population, don't tend to formulate that way. But on an individual basis, I think if we can start to understand each other, all the better.
I used to refer to myself on my job because I was CFO of a manufacturing company, and I'd say, I'm a woman in a man's job in a man's world, but I'm just as good as you are. We're going to sit at the table and we're going to come to an agreement and we're going to walk away. And somebody might be a little miffed and somebody might not, or we might be very happy and be able to work together very well. So I just laid it on the line because I dealt with all men. And the funny part was this one company towards the end, they got a woman president and they were like terrible. They were the boys club. And I laughed so hard and I sent them all emails with big faces of happy faces laughing because I thought it was great. It's like, okay, now you guys are in for it,
Mhm.
But it is. But you're right. I mean, back then women didn't work. They didn't have second jobs. They stayed home. They did everything. When the war came, they did go to work in the factories because they had to, because so many men were away in the war. And then it progressed from there where, the economy, it was a great time. And then when the economy shifted, there's no longer, unless you're an extremely rich person, two people have to work.
Yep.
So two people have to take responsibility for a lot of things.
If you want to be able to provide a decent life for your kid,
Yeah.
without a doubt.
Yeah.
And it's still that way to a large extent. Although there are a lot of people who say I can't go to work because I will pay more in childcare than I do to bring home.
That you would actually make.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Been in that situation a long time ago.
Yes.
Yeah, me
Yes.
too. I mean, I had 3 kids in daycare at one point so that I could work full time. And I'm really glad that I did that because eventually they all went to school and I was able to continue through my corporate progression and my career, but it's not something that everyone can do or that everybody wants to do. And that's cool too, right? Like I just want everybody, men and women, to be able to do what they want to do. There's plenty of men that want to stay home and take care of a home and raise a family while their wife works or their partner works, and that's great too. We
That's
shouldn't have to
okay.
stick in one space.
You're
Yeah.
seeing a lot more of it. There was a time in my life where I was home with the kids because I was doing insurance, but I was doing it remote.
Yep.
So my wife went to work and I stayed home and worked from home and took care of the kid, so there was never an issue of, no, you can't go to work. You have to stay home.
Right. Right.
So you're seeing a lot more of that. Thank God. It's way long overdue, but it's becoming more common, more every day.
Well, even now, I mean, remote work, I know a lot of companies are making people go back maybe 2 or 3 days a week and, but that's okay because, there are people that have been able to maintain the remote life, and that's a perfect outlet for them, especially if they have children. It's
Yep.
very, very important. But, you know, uh, health workers and stuff like that, they can't do that. That's not an
Yeah.
option for them, doctors or, any type of a position like that. But anybody who can be in a position to be home and work, it's like the perfect storm. It's
Yeah.
it's very good for them.
Yeah,
So-
I started working from home 9 years ago, and I don't ever plan to go back to an office ever.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. I did it independent work for many years when my girls were growing up. So I made my own hours or picked up stuff, did it from the house, whatever. Then when they went to school, I went back to the corporate world and that was fine. And COVID, I just stayed home. I had remote entry. So, it was very good until I retired,
So Melissa, where did you grow up? Where did you come from? Where did this all start?
I'm born and raised in Tucson, Arizona. I live in Phoenix, Arizona now, but
nice.
I'm an Arizona native. It's lovely here. It's
Easy.
Middle of March and 75 and sunny every day. So it's a wonderful time to be here. I've lived in several different states. So I spent 17 years in luxury hospitality. That's where most of my corporate experience comes from. I was in the finance and accounting department. I managed the global centralization and outsourcing of the finance and accounting programs there. So I learned a lot about people, learned a lot about communication. I learned a lot about global business, international business. And I did that for a very long time. And then in 2020, I decided to move on from that time. But it brought it all with me, you know, all that knowledge, all that experience. I'd say one thing that working in hospitality for so long gave me a competitive edge on is the emotional intelligence training that they provide us in hospitality, and in luxury hospitality in particular, has been remarkable. And I recognize it more and more now that I'm outside of hospitality. It's been really a cool ride to build a business and to learn a lot about self-promotion and how to work with different people, how to communicate so that they can hear me. It's a lot. There's a lot of different components to it, particularly in the last 3 years with so much going on in the United States, not just with COVID, but our political environment and so many different things that have made people cover their ears, you know, and not want to listen to the outside. I've enjoyed having conversations with people on all ends of the spectrum so that I can learn the best as possible.
Yeah, I work for JW Marriott, so I'm right there with you on the luxury hospitality. They do teach you a lot.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
I spent
a totally different level of interaction.
Yeah, I went to school. I went to hotel restaurant management school, and I thought I wanted to run a bar.
Did you go to school at AZ, or did you go to Arizona?
Northern Arizona University. And I thought that that's what I wanted to do, and then I did it, and it was awful. It just was not for me. I was like, oh, it turns out I like to be in bars, not that I want to work in a bar. I get it. It's different.
What was that movie? Coyote Ugly.
Yeah. So I was getting ready to leave my job right out of college because I realized that I had made a terrible mistake. And the financial controller asked me if I wanted to try accounting. I thought, no way, dude, this is not what I'm interested in. But I had spent 7 years as a bank teller, both in high school and in college. And so I knew a lot about money. I didn't intend to know a lot about money. It was not something I planned on. But he asked me if I wanted to try, and day one I fell in love, and I never have gone back. So it was certainly an accident, but an amazing accident that turned my career into that jungle gym that we all hope for, rather than that corporate ladder. So it's been pretty great.
It all happens for a reason.
That's true. Everything in life happens for a reason. So explain your anagram. You are this is great. You're a self-proclaimed efficiency bitch. Okay, what is bitch?
So I'll tell you the word or the phrase efficiency bitch that I eventually trademarked started because of a fight between my mother and I. I was 18. I was home from college. She was having a party, and I was in the kitchen messing up her stuff. And she said, Melissa, don't mess with my stuff. I have an efficient system. And I whipped around in all my sass and said, but you don't have to be an efficiency bitch. And yeah. And that was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just said that to her. But it turned into a term of endearment. And for the last 20 plus years, she and my sister and I have been calling each other that, like, EB this, EB that, EB1, EB2, EB3 is who we are. And so when I decided I had something to say, I started writing a book, and I thought I was going to write a book about money and kids and parents teaching their kids about money, because I realized that you can't teach what you don't know. So I wanted to help a parent understand. And I started down this path, and it wasn't happening fast enough for me. I'm a taskmaster. I like things to go fast. So I started a podcast, and I didn't know what to call it. And my sister suggested Efficiency B.I.T.C.H. And so I was like, yes, we're going to do that. So I started a podcast called Efficiency B.I.T.C.H. And I didn't know what I was doing. I was just DIYing it, trying to learn as I went. And eventually what I realized is that I didn't know what direction I wanted my show to take. But I realized I had these core things that I liked to talk about. And so I designed each show around a letter, and each letter represented a topic, which is how the book all kind of came to be. But that acronym is bank, inbox, time, connection, and harmony. And so B for bank is all about money, because it's my favorite thing to talk about.
Right.
I for inbox is the inflow and outflow of our tasks and are the things that we have to do, our to-do lists. T is for time, right? The great equalizer. And we all, the way you spend your time means a lot, it says a lot about you. And then C for connection. I am deeply rooted in philanthropy. It's part of who I am. It's part of how my family raised me. I also am a big believer in how who you spend your time with is going to impact who you become. So that chapter all talks about the human connections. And then H for harmony is, I originally wanted to call it happiness or health, but it didn't really quite fit. Then I started to realize that I didn't believe in work-life balance. Balance indicates all things are equal, but it can't all be equal. Right? I can't spend 8 hours a day working and 8 hours a day sleeping and then 8 hours a day volunteering and raising my kids. There's just not enough hours in a day.
Right.
So what I realized I was actually looking for is agreement. And agreement is what harmony means. It's the definition of it. So when you think of music and all of the voices come together in agreement, they're in harmony. And so that chapter kind of ties all that up together too.
Wow, that's almost being like a life coach.
Awesome.
Yeah, really, very impressive.
I want
my head, and I'm trying to come up with what's to be. No, that's honestly.
I want my words to just be inspiring and uplifting. I don't coach in that sense. I like to be a thought leader in this space, but it is certainly not outside of financial coaching for small businesses. That's the extent of it. But I volunteer a lot at local universities. I mentor many young women. I have several different groups that I mentor with, and that's been really impactful and empowering for me. I'm on the board at a youth camp in Arizona. I'm on the board at Planned Parenthood, Arizona.
Oh, wow.
I try to really spend my time and my energy with the people who are going in the direction that I hope that the world goes, and hopefully inspired some people younger than me to do some similar things.
And if it's just one person, then you've done your job.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Wow. Yeah. That is very I'm gonna have to read your book. Let me see a picture of your book. Let me see this book. Let the audience see your book. There you go, everybody. Efficiency B.I.T.C.H. And I love the design. Did you do the design? That's a great design.
Yeah, I didn't draw it. I had a professional artist that did the cover. I knew I wanted to be. Actually, it's a funny story how that all came to be too. When I originally started the podcast and I tried to go on Facebook and Instagram to create my podcast page, it was right smack dab in the middle of all the Black Lives Matter movements and the hate speech, and Meta really reined in a lot of the words that you could or could not use on their platforms. And so the word bitch was instantly kicked out of all of their algorithms. And so I had to shorten it to Efficiency B. And when I was looking for a mascot, I thought, oh, well, duh, it's a bee. She's a queen bee, she's a busy bee, she's a honey bee, she's all the things. So that's how
did you try putting it in with dashes and dots and stuff like that, and they still wouldn't take it?
Wouldn't take it. During that period, anything with any amount of hate speech was getting kicked out. It's significantly reduced now. I can use the word bitch on both of those platforms now.
Oh yeah.
But for a while it was absolutely locked down. Now there's no problem. Now I post the word bitch on the page all the time. And now the only time it gets questioned is if someone reports it, but that doesn't happen. If they did, Facebook would look at it and know that I'm using it in a positive light.
I've been lucky so far. We've been lucky. Nobody's kicked us out of anything. We can get really we can really step over the line a lot in a lot of things that we do. It depends on the guests that we have on. So we can be rather naughty. Let's put it that way. But so far, they haven't really scolded us.
Yeah, it's a lot better than it was 3 years ago, I think.
Yes.
Yes.
Drastic. In 2020 with the election and COVID and
Right.
Black Lives Matter, like that stuff got pretty heated. I mean, you lived it, you remember, and
Incredibly heated, and
yeah.
the social media was just like the firing squad
Yes.
for everybody.
Yes.
So obviously at that point they just basically locked down everything.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm
I,
happy to say it's back.
I know, right?
I really never had Facebook or anything because of the work that I did. We worked with subcontractors of the government, so I wasn't allowed. I mean, the president could have a Facebook and Twitter and stuff, but we weren't allowed to have it. So I didn't go on Facebook until last year. And I said, well, now I'm retired and I can go on and I can, start to promote everything. And so I never really saw everything that went on during COVID. I would just hear from my family, like, oh, so and so's arguing with so and this one said this and that, and I thought, oh, come on, the world is going through enough. People have to really like, come together. This is like,
Yeah.
and so I was glad I wasn't on. Not that I would
Yeah.
have said anything because I'm not getting into any of those discussions, and it's not something that I want to partake in. But I'm happy that it's come a long way, and things have come a long way, and people are a lot calmer now. And you don't see once in a while. I do see something, I just ignore it, but and I think that's the best way to handle something like that. Just don't engage.
I'll be honest with you, Melissa. I think a lot of us, it was a big. You walk away, you take away something from it. I think
Mhm.
we all learned something, or you should
Yeah.
have learned something from it, from the media aspect, the social media aspect, the political aspect. I mean, you could walk away and feel like, okay, never again am I going to go down this rabbit hole.
Right.
Never again. You just onward and upward, and you learn from it.
It's
But
such an
we're
interesting phenomenon too, because it's so new. It's only
Mhm.
been a decade, so no one really knew its power or how it would influence people, how easily lies could spread. And
right.
I think the phenomenon of the keyboard courage, I don't think any of us saw that coming either. Like I even saw it myself. I was much more comfortable typing something to someone than I was saying it to their face. And I think just that we're all recognizing that that was happening too as a collective human population across the globe.
Right.
Maybe learning to self-regulate the way that we use that keyboard. But it is an interesting tool that has spread a lot of information. I read, and I'll butcher the stats on this because I don't have the reference in front of me, but I read something once that talked about when the Bay of Pigs happened, Kennedy had 2 weeks to respond to the United States, the people, because the information was not spreading very quickly. The media was
Right.
slow, television wasn't popular. Then Bush had 7 minutes to respond to 9/11 based on information. Social media didn't exist yet. It wasn't popular. I mean, social media didn't exist at all, but we had the internet and we had email and we had different things like this. And today it's less than 5 seconds
Mhm.
for
Oh, really?
a piece of information to travel from actually happening to needing to respond to it. And by respond, I mean talk to the general population, right? And address the common people. So I think being a politician, being a leader in any shape today is a hell of a lot harder than it was 20 years ago or 40 years ago or 60 years ago, because information, both good, bad, and ugly, can go really
Immediately.
fast.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't
And
have any control of the message or the tone or anything else.
that's true. And a lot of people they perceive things differently. So you could be saying something very nice, and this person is going to perceive you as saying something totally opposite of what you're doing, which causes some problems sometimes that shouldn't exist. So,
Yeah.
it can be a pro, it can be a con. So, it's the world that we live in. It's going to blow up more and more and more. And I don't mean blow up in a bad way. I mean that, the technology we have today, is not as good tomorrow. So something new comes in tomorrow and the next day and the next day. So technology has grown by leaps and bounds.
Yep.
And we ourselves don't even know what's on the horizon. But I'm sure the people behind all of this know what's coming, and whether it'll be good for us, mediocre, bad, we don't know. We don't know. But I think
you feel like a test dummy.
yeah, yeah,
Because they already know what they're going to utilize it for, or they're hoping to utilize it for, and they're going to see if it works. But
yes,
it's all very interesting.
it is.
But what do you have? What do you have on the horizon? What's new and exciting, and what's the big thing that you want to talk about?
The book is like all I'm living and breathing right now. My goal is to be keynote speaker on stage. I'm speaking a lot these days at different groups. I spoke at Arizona State University a couple weeks ago. The panel was called Women in Consulting, and there was 5 of us. And I have to tell you, 50% of the audience were men. And I was so excited. Yeah, I thought
that's wonderful.
If I had done something like this for my age group of people in their 40s, and I put it out to everybody, mostly women would show up, but to put it out to a group of 20-year-olds and half the audience to be men, I just thought, this is awesome. They want to know what we have to say as females, as professionals. And I just that's the stuff that's really filling my cup right now. I'm enjoying that space. I'm loving the universities.
And it makes you feel really good.
Yeah, it really does. I tell people all the time, if you're a professional, go mentor, go volunteer, go guest speak at a local university. They can learn so much from you and you will leave feeling so good. I don't know if it's the reflection of you in their eyes or what, but it's such a fun experience. And I'm so looking forward to this next generation, watching them go and enter the workforce. It's really cool.
Well, that's a good start when you see 50% and that, especially with that age demographic.
Exactly.
Guys, that just shows you that they're finally turning the corner. And
I think so. I think we're getting close.
They have to get in touch with their feminine side. Definitely.
Yeah. And they just want to know what we're thinking. And I thought that was really cool. They're showing up.
It's important.
And I think that's really good. So I'll be writing another book. Efficiency B.I.T.C.H for the business owner is coming next. To try to talk a little bit to entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are my people. I love them. I think I geek out sometimes thinking about everything was someone's passion project. Someone got excited about making the desk I'm sitting in. Someone got excited about the cup I use every day. Right. Someone got excited about, the microphone that we're using. And I just think that's such a cool thing about people. So I love entrepreneurs because I love their passion. I love their excitement. So the small business that we own has been an incredible vehicle for me to meet a lot of small business owners and help them. And so I'm looking forward to writing that next piece. And it's all been great.
And that's good. You have a podcast and you're on other people's podcasts. So, you're getting your message out there in both ways, which is really important.
And she's a trooper because I see her.
I know.
I'm a what?
Blowing her nose.
She's just powering through it.
Yeah, I've been pretty sick all week. And I don't feel bad today, but of course I don't sound great. Like this is not my normal voice.
You look
almost
great.
sound like a late night DJ.
We can say we talked to Squeaky today.
Yes, I know.
Melissa.
I was telling my daughter, we were walking to school this morning and I was like, do I sound better? She's like, yes, you sound a lot better than you did yesterday, but your voice is still cracking a lot. And I was like, I know, I can't stop it, but that's okay.
Mommy went to a Metallica concert Saturday and she just really got into it.
Well, Melissa, we're going to save your voice because we're going to have to say goodbye.
Well, thank you for having me.
You are so interesting and I'm really pushing for you. I hope your signing goes really well.
Thank you.
And I think your book is really going to be a hit. And
thank you so much.
I can't wait to read it myself because I'm always very interested in all of that. So I thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate that you pushed forward even though you weren't feeling well. And that means a lot too. I think that's very important. I think that's what people are going to see when they look at you, that you are that person that's going to walk the 1,000 miles to do what you have to do, which is really important. And
Thank you.
So where do people find you?
yes.
Yeah, efficiencyb.com is easy to remember, easy place. I'm on social media all over. Efficiency B is the handle, because remember I couldn't have bitch in the title back then. And then 2 Cents Consulting, SENSE is the website for the business. But find me anywhere, send me a smoke signal, you know, I'm easy to find.
Okay, good. Well, for all our listeners out there, I'm sure you're going to enjoy this episode of Funny Minds. And go to funnyminds.com. And on there, you are going to see a big purple button. And we have 2 organizations that we're very, very involved with, and that's Women's Breast Cancer and St. Jude's Children's Hospital. So it's very important. Send your donations. On there, you have our emails. There's a form if there's someone you'd like to see on the show. If you have comments, we have a store. We sell silly, funny mind stuff. So if you ever want to buy anything, you can go on there and do it. And we just had a great time today. And I really, again, I thank you, Melissa, and to
Thank you so much.
everybody out there, to all our listeners. Be happy, be safe, be happy. Or you know, try and be happy, but always laugh, because laughter is the best medicine.
Or dye your hair purple.
Or dye your hair purple, yes.
Yes.
And that'll make you happy too.
I love it.
Okay, bye-bye now.
Melissa, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.